WinCam, when you're ready, let us know. Perfect, thank you. I'd like to call to order the meeting of Tuesday, May 6th. The agenda is as follows. We're going to start with a public hearing. We're going to do a continuation on 585 Main Street. We're going to do a continuation of the public hearing on 10 Converse Place. From there, we'll be moving into the open meeting. We will have board and staff updates. We have 2 sets of minutes to approve. We have to select a member from among us to serve on the State of the Town Advisory Committee. Discussion about town meeting and any additional votes or discussion that we want to have. Then we have 3 development reviews, 1 for 21 Hemingway Street, 1 for 15 Lawson Road, 1 for 10 Fells Road, any additional business, and then adjournment. So with that, I'd welcome a motion to move. We need a motion to return to public hearing, I believe. Is that correct? Why don't we do that?
Or you can open the meeting and then the public hearing.
Pardon?
No, but I think there's a specific.
I thought we only need to do. I thought we only need to do that if we were online.
No, I think you do need a motion to resume the hearing that we discontinued.
Yeah. So
moved.
Is it
Seconded.
Do a roll call vote. Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Nick? Aye. I vote aye as well. So we are back in public hearing for a continuation of 585 Main Street. The way I was thinking this would go tonight would be that we would, well, first of all, this is a continuation of public hearing on 585 Main Street, and we're considering a special permit for a change of use. I was hoping to give the petitioners some time to just come and introduce themselves again, any updates, and then move over to a staff report, anything you want to update us with. Welcome public comment, if there is any. If there is, it'll be limited to 3 minutes and per person, and only on this topic. From there, we'll move to discussion and welcome a motion if anybody from the board is so inclined to make one. With that, are the petitioners here? Welcome. If you do not need to, but you're welcome to come up and present any updates, anything.
Sure.
Just be sure to use the microphone. I know we met and chatted a month ago, I think it was, but.
All right, so my name is Eric Harstead. I'm with John Moriarty and Associates, the owner of 585 Main Street. So since we last met, let's just recap what we're trying to do. We're trying to renovate 585 Main Street to create a shared commercial kitchen where chefs, small chefs, medium chefs, various chefs will use the space to cook, bake, and produce their foods and their goods that can then be sold outside of the business or within the small retail space up front here. From that point, we put together kind of the proposed change of the space. We've kind of shown all the different, the skin, the different types of finishes, the floor plan, kind of laid that out. It was receptive with this group, or you were very receptive. I appreciate that. We've since met with the CBDRS, the Central Business District Review Subcommittee, and the Winchester, which has the historical and design review. We've reviewed with them, and they had some good comments. There are essentially 3 comments or recommendations. One was they liked the gas station look, which completely floored me and surprised me, but because I was trying to get away from the gas station the whole time. But when I thought about it more and looked into it more, it made sense. It gives this space a unique feel to it if we maintain those 2 garage doors.
Gasoline alley.
Yeah, gasoline alley. With the triangular shaped lot, it won't just look like every other retail space in town. So with that, they basically said, could you keep the 2 garage doors or mimic them? So we're going to do that. We're either going to mimic or put brand new garage doors. They'll be glass. They'll be the nice aluminum and glass.
Functional up and down.
Functional, yeah. So it'll allow an inside to outside, for events or anything that needs, a little more space than just inside. If we have some type of event, can't imagine what that is yet, but I'm sure there'll be a good reason to open the door every once in a while. And so we're good with that, and I've shown that on this version. The second one was where the two sections of storefront meet at the retail section. You can see that gray bar, that gray vertical piece, that's actually, the corner, the outside corner of where they meet. Right now, if you can't really see in that picture below, but it's two pieces of glass that are butt into each other. And they asked if we could retain that or at least put aluminum mullion there, but not the brick they had shown previously. I had basically separated to make two window systems. And I said, that's fine. And actually, I was talking to my subcontractor about it, and he thinks that's actually a better solution as well. So I'm showing that right now with the aluminum. I don't want two pieces of glass to touch and kind of do a butt edge because it's more susceptible to damage, and especially in that location, and it's not the best for the energy portion of it. And then the third was we had shown a wood cornice around the top, and they said, you don't need that. And I said, I thought you needed that. That's why I did it. So we gladly removed that.
Presume it costs less to not put it there.
So I'm just showing a typical parapet cap. So it was fairly smooth sailing, but the biggest point I think made sense was maybe give a little back to that old gas station look. And so we've got everyone ready, on our side to kind of make this happen, and that's what the drawing's kind of reflecting right there, the updated scheme.
Fantastic. Taylor, do you have anything that you wanted? I believe you had wanted to give us sort of a staff update on this, and if you did, that would be great. If not,
so this is a special permit for a change of use. The board on April 1st waived most of the aspects of a special permit. So in the way that the board should be reviewing this is more akin to a design review than to a full special permit review. The change of use is the thing that you are primarily voting on. If you believe that this use is a what's the language, the appropriate language used? It's a use that is less detrimental than the existing use. Leave my opinion out of it, but I think we all agree that it probably is. That is your primary. That's your primary vote tonight. The applicant, as he mentioned, did sit down with the CBDRS, and although the changes may not appear significant, he did listen closely and did follow a lot of their opinions. So from a staff perspective, the application is complete. We do recommend that the board put a singular condition on the project that does require the applicant to finalize board reviews, such as a sign review with the DRC, and code review with the building commissioner. That's fairly typical with all special permits. It's just something that will have to be recommended here.
thank you very much. With that, is there any member of the public who is here to talk on this petition? Seeing none, I will close public comment and we can move into discussion. So, any members of the board have any questions, comments, anything they would like to say about this project?
It's a really long way to get to. It's great.
I just reiterate what I said last time. I like the concept. I like the improvements too. I think DRC had some good thoughts here.
Yeah, I agree.
I wholly support this.
Any other questions or comments by the board on this project?
So let's see, so these changes are from the DRC
Proposed by.
And historical.
and okay.
Yep.
Great. And the CBDRS Was that instrumental in coming up with the changes, or was it mostly driven by the DRC and historical?
It was all three combined.
Okay.
So I will say that I'm thrilled with this project. Sort of beyond the scope. I mean, I really would love it if the parking lot weren't used as a storage or parking lot. That's sort of beyond the scope of what we're looking at. I'm just going to say that so that it's on the record that I think this would be a far better project if that was parking for this facility and not just storage. But that's not something that I'm going to take into account as far as this is concerned. Just want to get that out there.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Where the garage bays are or outside?
I mean the outside.
Oh,
The outside.
What do you mean by storage?
It's being used during the daytime to park cars for a different site. So it's basically being used as off-street parking. The way this is being done is vastly better than what it's being used for now. So I see this as a step in the right direction. Certainly would welcome that change some point down the road, though. Just want to say that.
Well, in that regard, it's not a change of use, because that's what it's being used for now.
Exactly.
Okay.
That's why I'm not using it. I'm not in any way holding it against the project. I just feel like we're talking about this site. I wouldn't want to not mention that. So, Taylor, do we need to go through the site plan review and special permit review?
It's not a requirement for you to go line item by
Line
line item. You can agree that it meets all site plan and special permit review criteria. As a reminder, the only ones that weren't waived were, I believe, proposed site plan and exterior look. So if you did want to go line item by line item, those would be the two that you would review.
Okay. Does anybody have any concerns on either of those?
No.
In theory, we could vote on this kind of as a whole.
Single motion or
Single
multiple motions?
Single.
Okay.
Single motion, and might even have some potential motion language that we could use that might have been sent out if people are so inclined to utilize that motion language. But
yep. Move to approve the revised Center Business District use special permit for 585 Main Street dated April 29th, 2025, with the condition that the applicant must gain approval from all boards and departments before a building permit is issued.
Second that.
any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, do we need a roll call vote only if we're online? Don't
No, we
believe
need a
do.
roll call vote.
Yeah, you do.
We do need a roll call vote? Okay. All in favor? Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The vote is unanimous. Thank you very much.
With one missing.
With one absence, yes. But still unanimous per Robert's rules.
Thank you for your time. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
Be in touch,
Thanks
Bob.
for your help.
Yeah.
So with that, we will move into the second item on our, I'm just going to go back to our agenda. Second item on the public hearing, which is continuation of CBD 14, which is for 10 Converse Place. Just a reminder, tonight we are discussing potential modifications to the design that's approved by special permit in 2022. For the audience's clarity, we're not here to revisit the approved permit, but rather to consider proposed changes. If we conclude that these changes are significant, we could ask for additional review or resubmission as a new project. If we find these changes are not significant, we could allow administrative revisions to the 2022 permit. So the order I was thinking this would go would be allow proponents to speak if they are present, then allow a brief staff report, and then move to public comment. I would welcome public comment limited to 3 minutes on this topic, and I would ask if you have already spoken before the board, if you let people who haven't spoken before the board come first, but I'm certainly not going to limit. From there, I would accept motions if the board so desired. So with that, I would welcome the petitioners to come to the table. If they have anything to add tonight, come on up and grab a microphone. I know we received a letter from you today, but welcome you to explain what you want to say tonight.
Thank you very much.
Move on.
Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Paul Onyebane from Urban Spaces. Lost my voice a little bit tonight, but hopefully we can make it through that. Our colleague Larry Beals. So thank you for meeting tonight, and I know this is the culmination of yet another round of very thoughtful and involved discussion about the project. So we had a very helpful call from the town planner from Taylor, and we thought it might be useful to summarize the issues as they've been outlined, and maybe where we stood on each one. And obviously, our understanding is that tonight you'll be considering a vote on each of these issues. So first and foremost, we would request, if possible, to take these issues in your voting individually, one by one, perhaps. Some may be more nuanced than others, and it would be great if we could ask that you take them individually. So starting with what appears to be the most significant concern is the building height. So it's, unfortunately, and sometimes this happens, it's one of the most important things we feel, to the success of the project as well. But it's also become evident that it's a change that might need the most scrutiny. And so we would like to concede the point tonight, and as you consider your voting whether something is insubstantial or substantial, we would sort of agree that it's substantial. If we were in your position, we'd understand that. And so if it is going to be considered substantial, we would ask the board to please consider waiving the various application and submission requirements such that the process could be streamlined and focused just on that one issue, the building height. Whereas an alternative, it could go through another track of permit review requiring all sorts of having all sorts of requirements. So that would be something that, in our view, would be a favorable outcome, to have it go through special permit review, being deemed substantial, but perhaps with a limited and focused and streamlined requirement that goes along with it. The other items, starting with the lower level automated parking, we believe that our request to modify below grade parking from an automated system to a more traditional self-park system is a clear improvement for the project. It must make for a much better residential experience for the people that end up living there, and that given that it occurs below grade and inside the building, we believe that it could be considered insubstantial. And I preface all of these things, which matters what you believe, not us necessarily, but I'm trying to give you our perspective. In terms of the first floor program, and we make the distinction between the parking and the first floor because they're really different. The lower level automated parking is what we're asking in this point to be modified to just allow for more traditional parking. But then as we go up a floor, the first floor program does have some matters to contend with in substituting the densely packed lower level automated parking system with traditional parking. We obviously had to eliminate a number of parking spaces downstairs. But in order to accommodate the necessary amount of off-street parking, we had to reconfigure the first floor. That's had a ripple effect, which caused the reconfiguration of the first floor commercial space and live-work residential units. In redesigning, we did our best to respect the spirit of the original approval, and we did so after some really good discussion, actually, where we maintained the mixed-use character of the first floor within the originally approved building footprint. But we did have to reduce the size of the commercial space, well, although we did maintain a space situated along Mount Vernon and situated along the Mill Pond Path. We also had to change the composition of the live-work residential units. We had to shrink them a little bit to accommodate the parking, but we were able to add. So they're a little smaller, but instead of 3, there are now 5 proposed. So again, it's a trade-off, it's a juggling act to make everything work. We hope we struck the right balance. We hope you will think so too, and consider that an insubstantial change, because the spirit of multi-family, mixed use still remains, and the retail is still there on both sides, and the residential is still there, and even more so. Then really the last points were the stormwater system. We thought that was just relocating the stormwater from the rooftop to the inside the building would be considered an insubstantial change. It's more a compliance and an engineering issue, perhaps more than anything. And then lastly, the total unit count. We did want to ask for some flexibility to increase the unit count potentially as we move through our design process from 43 units as approved to 47. In reviewing the previous developers' schematics, we found that some of the units were perhaps unnecessarily oversized and had the potential to be right-sized. The advantage to do that is anything more than what's approved today would add an additional affordable unit, and we'd go from 6 to 7 if we did in fact increase the overall unit count from 43 on up. Thus, we thought that could also be considered an insubstantial change. So that's our summary, and we look forward to ongoing collaboration, and we really hope that we can work together and just to find the best possible project for downtown Winchester. And as we hope, we're flexible, and we don't think, even after tonight's vote, if it is favorable on all these points, this is just really the start of a new chapter. And we'll be collaborating all the way.
Thank you very much.
I just have a quick question. On the first issue, what does it mean that you're conceding the point?
Maybe it's not the best way to phrase it. We were recognizing that the number of people might consider it a substantial change, and we could see that perspective. So we just wanted to say, we're not going to try to persuade anyone to feel otherwise.
Oh, okay. But and then it also looks like you're making some of the units smaller, some of the oversized units.
Yes, ideally, we're still at that schematic level, and because we're in that no man's land of approval, we haven't spent a lot of resources on it. But at first blush, it looks like some of the units are just too big. Being too big has disadvantages too for homeownership, right? It makes the units more expensive when you extrapolate out a price per square foot times a big number of square feet. It's a big, expensive unit, maybe unnecessarily so. The flip side is true on the live-work units on the east side of the first floor as proposed, where we actually made those quite small as 500 square feet, and that makes it by definition more affordable. Not deed restricted in the same way that other affordable units are, but less expensive.
Market rate affordable.
Exactly.
Thank you very much. We may have more questions for you when we get to our discussion. I wanted to give you, Taylor, a chance to give us an update. If you have any updates that you want to give us before we welcome public comment and then our own discussion.
Just a few clarification points for the board, members of the public, everyone. All this information is in the packet, which you can get on the planning board website. But there are a few terms that have been used throughout this process. I just want to make sure that everyone is aware of and what it means. So the first is administrative review. The initial request by the applicant was a request that the special permit be amended through administrative review. What that means, and administrative review is very common. Administrative review is used on all permits, on all sizes. But it may not always be necessary or the best path forward. What administrative review is essentially a review from staff. the board, the planning board, the ZBA, whatever board it is, which issued the permit, then entrusts the staff to amend the permit based off of minor or small changes. That is what, that's how we got here. I just wanted to make sure that's clear to everyone. Now, how we usually get into administrative review is the determination of substantial and insubstantial changes. Now, in Winchester, we don't have a strict definition in our bylaws of what is substantial or what is insubstantial. It's really subjective, but a insubstantial change to any project is one that shouldn't be seen as, changing the aspects of what the board originally approved it for. It is a tough one to describe and a tough one to determine because everyone's going to have a slightly different opinion of what's substantial or not. But these are terms that we use. We aren't just using it here for this project. We use it for many other projects. And so I just want to make sure that we're all clear in understanding. I also want to say that this project is has complexities to it. So if anyone has any questions, please ask during this process now, later, whenever it is. We're here to, or I'm particularly here to answer those. Okay.
Question. Following an administrative review, let's just say this happens to go that way, and you work out a deal with the proponent, is that something that comes back to the planning board for a revote, or is that just that's
No.
it?
Yeah, administrative review won't come back to the planning board.
Okay.
Any other questions for Taylor on that? Seeing none, like I said, I would welcome members of the public who wanted to come and speak on this topic. I know we've had lots of opportunities. We've received many emails. They're in our packet. We've had people come to our meetings in the past, but it's a public hearing. I feel compelled to allow members of the public to come and give us their thoughts. So I welcome that. If you're interested, please raise your hand and come on up. Well, I may know who you are if you could state your name and address for the and I am going to not going to cut you off at 3 minutes, but I'm going to tell you when you get to 3 minutes because I want to be respectful of everyone.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. My name is Diogerius. I was previously of the planning board, and I was on the board when this project was originally voted. So I sent you all a short memo earlier today, excuse me, and I'll just go through a couple of the points. I'll get to the meat of it. So the project as voted, the original design, I think was pretty much at the limits of what the board was considering appropriate for the site. So my concern is, as was pointed out, was the increase in height. But more importantly, I think the addition of the extra story really changes how it's interpreted along with the buildings around it. And I admit to being a little confused as to why the extra story is required if the number of units is staying the same. The parking issue has been resolved by modifying the ground floor. So I don't quite understand why the extra story is required to maintain the same number of units. When I looked at this in terms of whether this still met the purposes of the CBD, which are the key thing that we looked at was whether or not this would provide more diverse housing alternatives. At the time we did think it did so, and in particular, being able to get the extra height and FAR via the PUD required meeting what is essentially a rather vague standard, which would provide more diverse housing opportunities. So it seems like you'll have the same number of units, so the real question I have is the increase in height and the extra story and what I consider a more monolithic design. I really think there should be some design reviews. It's the balance between, are the negative aspects, do they overwhelm the positive aspects in terms of meeting the increase in diversity of housing? And in my consideration, they don't, and particularly because of the addition of the extra floor. Again, I don't understand why there's an extra story that's put in there. So I think that if the project were shorter, if there was a good reason for the extra floor, or if there was a redesign so that it doesn't have such a monolithic aspect, that's really my main concern here. Other than that, I would say that the offset is if the town could get more inclusive housing out of this project, then I would see that would be a more positive outcome and overweigh the negatives. So that's pretty much my rather convoluted and inconcise meanderings. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Did I hit 3 minutes?
You were a little over, but order of magnitude.
Thank you.
Are there other members? Yeah, come on up. Again, even if we know who you are, just state your name and...
Yes, I'm Ellen Spencer. I am a member of the Design Review Committee. I've been here at other meetings for this project and have spoken my piece, so I'm not going to repeat myself because you know my views. But I wanted to reiterate what Diab just said about not understanding the extra story. I mean, the applicant basically tonight admitted that we're going to agree to disagree on that, and they're not going to change it. But mainly the thing I wanted to say was what I believe was reiterated in some of the earlier hearings, which is that what you're deciding on tonight is this design a significant change to the that is really the question. The question is not, oh, if we don't do this, are we going to get a 40B? That is not the question. The question is this a significant change over what was approved before? And as you, for all the arguments, that you have our letters, you have our statements, we believe it absolutely is. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there additional comments from the public? Seeing none, I will close public comment. Thank you again to both of you and to everybody who submitted public comment to us. This is now where we get to talk and decide how to best move forward. So I will. I'm going to go last.
Okay. Does anybody else want to go first? I had hoped to give a slightly more coherent set of comments on the role the Conservation Commission will play in this parcel, if that's possible.
Absolutely.
I organized it into a couple of pages, but I don't know whose computer's being shown up here, if we have it.
Just send it to me.
Okay, hold on one sec.
Oh, no, never mind. That won't work. This isn't my computer.
I can
Send it to me.
I can read them. You want me to send it to you? Oh, please.
And start reading.
Okay. Hold on. I'm not a multitasker.
After you read that, we can put it into public record after you're done. So that's perfect.
Okay. So I want to. So the success of the project is going to absolutely hinge on us working together with the Conservation Commission, because it's not just the planning board working in the CBD. We're very much in the riverfront area. So 200 feet off the riverfront is protected by the Wetlands Protection Act, and so whatever we do is going to keep coming back to the Conservation Commission. And so I wanted us to be very clear on where we are in that process and how the Conservation Commission is going to think about this project, which we'll keep coming back to it. So the slide that you see in your mind right here.
Have a thumb drive? Anybody have a thumb drive?
That is old tech.
That's how we could get it. That's how we.
I know, and it's come up before.
floppy
and
disk,
I have them
anybody?
lying around. I can just read you to. So there are essentially 8 interests that we try to follow when we're evaluating a project by the Wetlands Protection Act. It's these are not shocking. It's things like protection of the public and private water supplies, not applicable. Protection of the groundwater supply, flood control, storm damage prevention, prevention of pollution, protection of fisheries, and protection of wildlife habitat. So those were the criteria that we worked our way through as a Conservation Commission to decide, would this project have a negative impact on the waterfront? Ultimately, we decided it would. That decision was appealed and it went to DEP. So we all think that we're waiting for DEP to respond to us, but I actually think DEP is waiting for more information on the project. And I assume that is stalled out because we're back here. And once this is complete, it's going to have to go to DEP. And DEP could go a couple of ways. If it's a new project, it's possible that the case that we brought to them before doesn't raise the same issues and may come back to the Conservation Commission. Either way, it's not coming back to the Planning Board, the first thing that has to happen. I mean, they don't move forward until they have our plans, but our plans need to keep the Conservation Commission in mind. Otherwise, this site will never get redeveloped and we will be here for the rest of our young lives. There's a second bylaw that protects our waterways, which is the Winchester bylaw. And the Winchester Wetlands bylaw is the interest of the Wetlands Protection Act, and it adds in 2 other criteria. One of them is recreation, and the second thing is aesthetics. And aesthetics includes view sheds of the waterway, and that was hotly discussed. This is not the only project that the Conservation discusses this on. We have had explosive meetings with the pool club about how high their bushes can be. Like protecting the public visual access to the waterway matters quite a bit. So once we get through the 8 criteria and the wetlands, so we decided against it based also on the criteria of the town bylaw. That one is in Massachusetts Superior Land Court, and I don't think that will move forward until, again, the project is in its final incarnation. So one thing that we did not do with the original project that I think could be done would be to do an alternatives analysis. I don't know if DEP would have asked for that. I don't know if the Conservation Commission will ask for that. That asks the question, can this project happen anywhere else? Let's assume that's decided no, but that's a process that will have to happen. It's time consuming, it's a bit expensive. The piece of the Conservation Commission decision that I want to bring to our attention right now is the fact that it's going to keep coming back to the way that the parcel gets dealt with. It's very close to the waterfront, and so this isn't sort of like encroaching on the last 50 feet, 200 feet off the waterway. So when we think about the mitigation question that's going to come up, what we're thinking about is when we look at the whole parcel, we look at a building, a parking lot, and a green space. And what split the Conservation Commission, what we spent close to a year on, was whether or not the green space is degraded or not. And so the land that we all agree should be redeveloped is the building footprint and the parking lot, because that's degraded. It's parking lot, it's benefiting the waterway, absolutely not at all. It's runoff, it's, whatever. And so that part we all agree could be much better. And then the green space, redeveloping something that is considered not degraded, which ultimately was the decision of DEP, that this is not degraded land. That is a whole other set of criteria for redevelopment. And one of the things that's allowed is mitigation. But the spirit of the Wetlands Protection Act is that project that's, encroaching on the last 50 feet. And you can mitigate because you went into the 200 foot, but it's far away from the waterway. This entire project is, I think it starts something like 27 or 30 feet off the waterway. So allowing mitigation is allowing encroachment on the waterfront that is not already there. So for a project to be successful here from the eyes of the Conservation Commission, I think the focus of it should be on keeping the footprint to the area that's already degraded. This is an economic disaster for the developers. I do understand that because it's much smaller. And we're going to have to get creative to get this property to work. I think it would be a little irresponsible to just approve a mitigation area. Right now, there's an article with the select board that's asking it to approve an easement for mitigation along the side of Mill Pond that's right in front of the 10 Converse Place. But that's a couple steps ahead. That's deciding that the site has to include the non-degraded area, and it's assuming that the best area for that mitigation is right in front of the site. That's a whole other complicated layered issue that I'm not going to get into, but there are several steps that have to happen to make sure that this project can be successful. I would opine that the town should have a significant interest in this parcel. And this is not our discussion, so we can talk about it like money doesn't matter much to me. If there were ever a time for the select board to get involved and try to find a way to do a public-private venture or a government-private venture, whatever the two layers are, this is the parcel for us to think about to make sure that it ends up being the right size, the right scale, and right for the riverfront. Those are the points I wanted to make.
Can I ask you a question based on
Yeah.
that? To what extent do you see the decision that we make, and whatever decision needs to be made by Concom and DEP as attached, and to what extent do you see them as entirely different? And that is to say that we make a decision, a recommendation, and then Concom, and they do their work, and they say, no, you still can't do what, if we approve this and they say, no, you can't, to what extent is that? If we decide it's an administrative change either way,
today?
or if we ultimately, let's go with that way. If we make an administrative decision that these changes are insignificant.
So I think if we decide these changes are insignificant, we have to do that with the requirement that this makes its way through the proper channels. I don't think there's an option for it to go forward without it going through the proper channels. The stormwater has been relocated. That's not insignificant in the eyes of DEP. Anything that's going to affect water movement, or especially that close to a waterfront, is very interesting to Concom and to DEP. And so no matter what happens, these plans, we have to know that this went to them and they decided either, here's how to handle the site, here's how to mitigate, or send it back to Concom because it's a different parking configuration. Whatever they decide, it's out of our hands. But we have to make sure that DEP's weighed in on it, or it's just going to keep getting prolonged. If we decide there's substantial changes, I don't even know if I'm clear on how much. I mean, I think it makes us rethink the project, and I think we can work to come up with something that I think would have an easier time getting through the conservation piece.
I don't think it's a negative to have to rethink the project.
I think certain members of this table
but
circle would disagree.
We're having a discussion here. I'm not even sure if these
Right.
gentlemen should be at the table at the moment.
That's fair. That's fair.
I'm just suggesting that it.
I won't ask you to leave the table, but if you guys are willing to just not speak, then if we have questions for you, we can ask you. But in fairness, it's helpful to have you here if you have questions. And if we do, we will certainly direct them to you if we have any questions.
Could I just offer one comment? We do have very current knowledge of what DEP is going to require and not require, so we'd be happy to share that with you if it were helpful to the board.
Thank you very much. Sorry, Nick, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I just wanted to make that one supporting point to what you've said.
I just think we should have I just think all of our meetings, for efficiency, for fairness to the applicant, for anything we do with this, we should have the Conservation Commission at these.
No, I
As far
understand.
as sort of the issues in front of us, I think they are. I think stormwater's been moved. I think the parking's been changed. I think the height's been changed. I mean, many pieces that were approved, and again, I've said this before, but this project was approved at the outer limit of what we felt was allowable for the CBD to carry. So all changes would be substantial.
And I totally agree. I just struggle with what's in our lane and what's not in our lane. And obviously those reviews, any decision we make will be conditional upon DEP and the Concom. They should be. I would not make any recommendation or decision that was not contingent on them following their statutory requirements to review this. So I don't disagree with anything you said. I just want to get around my head what we are here to do.
Yeah, and if we could have Taylor lead us through, we decide there's substantial changes. Our next step is.
That's a great question.
So so there are a few ways, there's really two ways that I recommend you decide that there are substantial changes. The applicant is specifically asking for you to go basically look at each one and determine, and correct me if I'm wrong, but going each one and determining if it's substantial or not, so that they have an understanding of what you believe are the substantial changes or insubstantial changes. If you believe that any one of them are substantial, you would you would require that in order to resolve those substantial change, it would have to go back to some point in the special permit review. That's any point from the very beginning at the application, or you can work directly with the applicant to say, we will just address this part or these two parts, but we agree with you that these other parts don't need to be reviewed in further detail.
So essentially, we would make our decision tonight, and our next meeting would be a request for waivers.
Yes. Yeah. Different verbiage, but yes. Yeah.
But we sort of be indicating what our appetite for waivers would be.
You should indicate that in your decision tonight. Yes.
Right. I mean, I understand, beginning to understand the Concom issues. But I think what we're asked is this a substantial change, adding the floor and moving the parking? And I think what I missed Diab explaining, because he's explained it in other meetings, is that they spent an awful lot of time on just those two issues, where the cars were going to go and how tall it was going to be. And to change those two, those are the two huge issues. I mean, I remember the building going up and down. To just put the parking on the first floor and toss another floor on with some mechanicals that sort of are vaguely indicated, but not even a guess at how tall they are, but I think you could probably figure it out, you know. It could be presented to us. I can't call that insubstantial. It's substantial. I hadn't considered the stormwater issue, but my experience is they always want to know all the details about where that stormwater goes. I know I would definitely ask before I made that change.
Right.
Yeah.
And as we've seen in town meeting, water movement is our problem. We just slough it off on that.
Yeah, I mean that. Yeah, water's a big deal.
We all want to see this parcel redone. I mean, no one's in love with the laundry building. We just, I don't know the shortcut for this one.
Jack, do you have anything you'd like to say?
I have a question. I don't know if it's appropriate, and please tell me if it's inappropriate, and I'll stop. But I have a question for the proponent. If he is saying that the top floor is up for negotiation, I would presume that there are, I don't know how many apartments you envision on that floor, but am I correct in presuming that there would be that fewer number of apartments in the entire building? Is that a safe question? Yeah, okay.
Yes, if we didn't have, the purpose of the top floor was because we were eliminating various revenue streams from the first floor, making the smaller commercial space, making the smaller residential units, and adding the expense of additional parking because we got rid of the automated system down below, all made, it was just driven on financials. So we were proposing to add the top floor in order to add more units, one of which would be affordable, in order to fund that. So that was the genesis of it. Of course, we are flexible. When someone mentioned that we wouldn't change our position on the top floor, we would certainly change it. We're trying, kind of like you, we're stuck in the construct that we're in. So we were saying that, the top floor, the extra 6 feet, however you look at it, we could eliminate that. We would go through another process to do that, perhaps. But ultimately, we're very interested in making sure that we get the right project for the town. And if that means eliminating the top floor, but getting the other things that are kind of requirements almost, we need to have the parking, and things like that, then all is open for discussion in our.
Well, if I may be free to extrapolate what you're saying, you haven't said how many apartments are on that top floor. If it's 4, 5, 6, I don't know.
I think it is, I want to say, we didn't have the architects with us tonight. I think it might be 6 to 8.
Okay, let's say it's 6. So now you have 41 apartments. Presumably you have need for 6 fewer parking spaces, which could give you more space. 6 parking spaces is considerable space. It could give you more space for commercial space on the ground floor.
That's possible, yes.
So that kind of, we have that leeway?
Yes, we'd have the back and forth. It would be predicated, though, on allowing change number 1, the removal of the automated system.
Oh, yeah, of course, I understand
Right,
that.
of course.
That's a given in my mind.
And change number 2, adding ground level parking, which is new.
That's fine, but what I'm saying is if you eliminate, for the sake of argument, 6 spaces, you've gained space for instance, commercial space, or maybe increasing the size of those live-work spaces, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, that answers my question, thank you.
Anyone else? So, I struggle, I appreciate the letter that you sent us today. I struggle with looking at each one of these in a vacuum, because I try to look at the totality, how close is, so you could look at each one, and maybe say each one is or isn't, but I struggle because I believe this is, does have significant changes, is substantial from what was approved in 2022. The building height is notable, but I don't think that's exclusive. The building height is because of the change in parking, which is also notable, and the change in commercial space. When we look at what we've been doing as a board, we are really trying to enliven the downtown. We've been working on North Main Street. One of those things is that commercial space. This commercial space has been dramatically decreased, replaced with parking. So it's hard for me to put a finger on and say, well, it's the height that pushes it over the top, and if it was 6 feet shorter, then it would be fine, or it's the lack of the reduction in commercial space, because I think it's the totality of those things that makes it very different from what was approved in 2022. I don't want to, myself, want to get into what the DEP or what Concom has to say, because I believe they will get their chance to review this if whatever happens after here. It would be contingent on being approved by the DEP, whatever we do. But my belief is this is a substantially different project than what was approved in 2022. And I, at a minimum, don't see how it could be approved with administrative review, which you've actually conceded to some extent. I'm not sure what waivers I would be willing to make personally. But I see this as largely a new submission that looks similar to the old building, but I believe it's a new submission. That's my opinion. So I would.
I think I would echo that. I mean, I think based on all of the documents that I have here and all the boards that have weighed in, I think it would seem that it is a substantial change, for better or for worse. But that's what we're asked to vote on, and that's, I think that would be my opinion.
Go ahead.
Is it okay if I ask a question?
I would welcome, yes. I'm not trying to exclude anyone. We certainly want your input. This ideally is a partnership, so yes, please.
Okay, great, thank you. I respect that this is your meeting as well. So I wonder if, in the spirit of partnership, there's a lot of good ideas that keep getting raised at these meetings. And there is some finality to a vote that puts us on a track that is very different than one where things that are found insubstantial. So we would have a great desire to perhaps even propose, if it's premature, now hearing what we have, maybe holding on the vote, where we perhaps go, if you're amenable to it, maybe you have to vote tonight, but another idea would be for us to take the comments that we've heard, go back to the drawing board a little bit. Like Jack said, what if we get rid of the top floor? It's obviously something people don't want. And we expand the commercial space because we now don't need the parking for those units. Give a little more of Mount Vernon than we currently have, more like the old plan. Same thing on the pond side, and sort of weigh these things and try to meet what you're saying. There are at some point there's no more levers to pull, right? I do believe that unfortunately, parking is driving a lot of this, and it's some of it's zoning, some of it's marketability, but we need to have a space for every unit, and that's probably why they did the automated puzzle system, because it was the only way they could figure out how to do it, and it's not viable. So so it necessitates parking on the ground level, but maybe like our very first meeting with Taylor, we didn't have any commercial on either side, and he noted how important it was. Maybe we didn't go far enough. Maybe we have to go further to address the points you're saying. So if we came back with a proposal that went down, got rid of the 6th floor and the additional height, wrapped the building around with more commercial on the front and back sides, kept the parking as, it'll be a little less, but it'll be enough to meet the needs, and perhaps do other things that we could think of. I wonder if you would be more amenable to finding the project not substantially changed. And if that's the case, that we have a lot of wood to chop, then we have to go back to the owner, the bank ultimately, to get them to lower the price. And that's maybe what has to be done. So there's financial considerations that aren't relevant for this conversation really, but we think we can do it and make something work for everybody.
Thank you very much.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I think, there is a lot about this that's exciting, and, sort of at the risk of being confrontational, there are other paths. It would be important to have a public-private partnership for this particular parcel, to the extent that that's possible. And it would be important to have the select board involved, and it's a very important parcel for the town. And so it's a really difficult kind of crossroads that we're at.
Taylor, can I ask you a question? Is there something that distinguishes between us making a decision tonight that the changes being proposed currently are substantial, and the petitioners coming back to us somewhere down the road, or would making that decision preclude them from doing exactly what they just described?
You can absolutely decide that the changes are substantial, but you can decide that you want further review whether the changes are substantial or insubstantial. I think one thing that if I can make a recommendation to the board, one thing that I don't think that we're giving the applicant is direction. I think that the applicant is willing to give more than the board is really asking for. I think that there's a lot of things that we can specifically ask, and maybe the answer is no, right? Maybe it's can you propose a building that is entirely out of the buffer zone? Maybe the answer is no, but we're not asking that question. Do we have the opportunity? Can you do a building that's 3 stories instead of 6 stories? These are questions that we need to be asking instead of kind of a lot of, I think there's a lot of agreement with everyone on the necessary, on how great this parcel is and how we want it to be developed, and what we have in front of us isn't necessarily that. But we need to be working with the developer and stating specifically what we want and ask specific questions to them of what's possible. Now, that doesn't have to happen today. We can say, even without going through the special permit process, because going through the special permit process is kind of locks them into something and it can be expensive. You can say that in future meetings, we're going to have those discussions. And maybe we don't want to, but this from my perspective, this is something that these are the questions that we need to be asking.
Thank you. So that leaves us with,
So we could ask for like a park or more green space around the building, for example.
So you can, it's appropriate to ask that question, but it's also appropriate to understand that the answer might be no, it's not, that's not financially reasonable for us to do, so we can't do that. But there might be some middle ground, right? There might be some way to get some more green space. There might be some way to get some less height, maybe the scale or the massing. Now, but you have to recognize that we're not going through a whole massive review to get to this point. We're not going to ask for, outside consultants or any of that. This is more of a back and forth before we get to that point.
I mean, one of the things that I've kind of always wanted in the space is a building that nods even more to the traditional aspect of that street, that kind of has a, looking at the Brown and Stanton block and the town hall, and kind of nods even more in that direction. And it's a big building the way it is now.
It would be a bit irresponsible of us to ask for a 3-story building with green space around it and full commercial that's transparent so you can see the waterfront and have it be commercial, and decide that because we like it, it's not a substantial change. This is not the project that was
That is
approved
true.
by the planning board.
We are voting on whether it's a substantial change.
We're not voting on whether or not we like it. We're voting on whether or not it's a substantial change from a hard-fought decision by a planning board that
Right,
none of us
no.
were members of.
That's absolutely correct.
That's our decision.
That's the decision.
Do we revet the project? This is an important parcel in town. It doesn't matter if it's a parcel that feels kind of unimportant to us. It's still irresponsible of us to move forward a project that we lightly vetted because we were lost in the hearts and minds war over whether or not we are worn out by hearing the words 10 Converse and like the applicants. Like, we have to vet the project appropriately for our roles as a planning board.
Yeah, I agree. And I appreciate kind of bringing us kind of back into that reality.
one of the things that I've been struggling with as we've been dealing with this is precedent. Like I said, I believe the totality of these are substantial, and I do worry that a future developer will come in and see how we vote here today, and that they will use that as precedent for how they can develop. If we were to say that 6 feet is not an issue, I wouldn't picture any future developer not coming in saying, I'd like to make the building 6 feet taller. Same with parking, same with reduction of commercial space. I know that commercial space isn't always a money winner for developers, but it's something we value a lot in town. So I see your point, and I do worry about the precedent for a future developer, something in CBD or North Main, wanting to, after they have approved special permit, wanting to make a number of potentially smallish changes that in their totality become a big change, or a number of big changes, either way. So your point is a good one, and I just add on to that.
I mean, I agree. We really are here to say whether it's a substantial change or not. And I think we're in agreement. We think it's substantial, maybe for various reasons. But I think we're talking about trying to help the developer get a better idea of what we would look favorably on if it was to be altered.
I agree.
And not not having to go through the long process and then say, well, I'm not sure we like it.
And
Or
ideally,
what
this
made
can
you
be the
think we wanted
project that educates us on how to streamline site plan, special permitting.
You know, I mean, to have some meetings where they feel they're, heading in the right direction as they move along, spending time and money and having meetings with us and other boards.
None of us were part of the planning board that approved this, although I was on historical commission, and we saw the plan. We saw and approved the plan twice, 2 different plans. So I'm very familiar with this project, and as Carrie said, getting tired of hearing the words 10 Converse Place.
So are we.
But I agree with what Brian has said already, that these are substantial changes. There's no denying it. But I mean, the building is just too big for the site. The original plan was already pushing the envelope, and I think the revision just pushes it further. I'm reiterating what other people have said, and that's something I feel strongly about, as well as the commercial space, which is why I was querying you about, is there some way of bringing the mass down, of gaining some more space on the ground floor for commercial? Now, that means a lot to me, just as a single member. You go ahead.
May I wonder if another way of looking at this is sort of to go from the baseline. It's an approved project.
Yes.
And the kind of changes, maybe, again, this is why we wanted to go one by one to get your guidance, but I could just ask these rhetorically and you can decide if you'd like to consider them perhaps. But, for example, if we could change the automated parking system to a traditional parking system at the below grade level, if you were to say that's insubstantial, check. Now we can build the existing building that's been approved with a better parking solution. And with all the commercial and everything that's been in place. Can we remove the stormwater off the roof, which is a crazy solution, I've heard of it before, onto terra firma? If you say sure, that's not substantial either because it's meeting the purpose and it's not changing water flow. Okay, check. Now we, kind of to Taylor's point, we now have a more viable project than we do today as approved. And then maybe it culminates in let's go the easy ones. The unit count. If you make the units a little smaller and it's all inside the envelope and you're not changing the windows, maybe that's insubstantial too. And now you can go from 43 units to 47 on the approved volume. Okay, check. We're getting guidance now. We're getting closer to a real project. And then, of course, the rubber will meet the road if we can put some parking on the grade level. Maybe the trade-off is, yes, you can do that, but we want you to reduce the footprint. Right now, the building's 80-some feet wide. A parking lot needs to be at least 62 feet wide. Maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle or go down. But unless we know that we can, like if you change the automated parking, change the stormwater, change the unit count, and maybe put some parking on grade, we will never know if we really have a project. And we are getting close to the end of the rope for us because we had this internally, I guess you'd call it, imposed June 30th deadline that we have with our lender prospect. So if it's possible to work from, instead of reimagining wholesale change, to take the approved project and incrementally decide what is allowed and what's not, that would be really helpful. And if we didn't do our job flipping it over, we can certainly do that. And we can give you better drawings, et cetera. But maybe we decided to look at it from the wrong way. Maybe we need to build up, ground up, and from what's approved instead of, what's ideal. And we'd love to do it. If we truly want that spirit of collaboration, we can certainly work that way instead.
I appreciate everything you're saying. In my mind, I don't know. Go ahead, Nick. Sorry.
No, I was just, and I don't know whether this is kind of off the, whatever happens here today is relevant data, and I would think that it might affect the value of the property to some degree. I don't know what negotiations are happening, but it might get us to be able to support a smaller ultimate, result. And
The only question I have is I worry a little bit about this process we didn't think was meant to relook at the approved project, which is a certain size and scale, oversized as it may be for some people. It is approved. It has the unfortunate aspect of not being sort of practical because of the parking issues. But, I know that in that negotiation that we will need to have with the owner is that there might be somebody out there crazy enough to do the automated parking system and the project just as approved. Yeah. In our 20 years experience, it's a terrible idea. And the project will not be a success. And it's already, maybe the writing's on the wall for that. That's why it's failed thus far. But, I hope we have some power to negotiate the price. And we have started to broach those discussions already. But I'm not sure what will happen. The best way I think, to control the project for all of our interests probably is to decide what tweaks to the existing approval are viable and acceptable to you.
I'd like to build on something you said, that you're absolutely correct. We are here to talk about the changes, not about the original approval. And if a developer, assuming Concom and DEP were on board, they could come in and build that building. But it sounds like that is not a viable building as it's been designed to your thinking. So it's sort of, I'm not sure how, I don't want to use the word relevant. There's a building that's been designed, it's been approved, and it more or less can't be built. At least what I'm hearing. So I mean, somebody could come and do that. And we could also anchor ourselves to an unbuildable building. I think that's a hard thing to do. So we're ultimately looking at the changes from that, and that's why I want to focus on the changes from what that was approved. And I feel like we've sort of talked about this for a while. I don't want to tell the board what to do. I mean, I feel like a motion, it feels like we're all on board the same place as far as a motion is concerned, but that motion shouldn't preclude continuing discussion after that motion. But for the sake of everybody involved, I think we need to publicly declare what we seem to all be thinking, but I'm not going to make a motion here.
Am I correct in seeing that there may be three different motions, one ruling that substantial, another insubstantial, and a third one asking for a continuance of this hearing to?
No, I think it's just two.
You could ask for a continuance if you wanted.
Yeah, ask for a continuance.
I think we have two. I think we need to make a decision whether it's substantial. That's what we're here to do tonight. That's what we've been called together to do. We've had a lot of time to talk about this. If we come to a decision, hopefully we can continue discussions with the proponent. But I think we're expecting to have some kind of a resolution.
Well, I mean, we are just saying that we think these changes are substantial.
Right, I think that's the motion.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, that doesn't mean can't have a whole lot more conversation about it. It just means this is too much to be administrative, to be insubstantial.
We just got a special permit for 585 Main approved in 2 meetings.
Right.
It's possible.
Right.
Well,
right.
you know, that's
Subtly different project?
Yeah.
It's a little different.
I'm just saying, there is precedent.
that was some good food.
Is there anybody who on the board who wants to make a motion this evening?
I'll make a motion that the project represents a substantial change.
Would you like us to read the full motion language?
That's up to you.
Whatever the language is,
That you move the proposed changes to 10 Converse Place by the applicant on April 1st to result in a substantial change to the special permit granted by the planning board on March 15th, 2022. Any amendments to the special permit shall be considered through special permit review in public hearing. That the motion?
I think so.
That's, as it was
Who-
outlined.
Who is, just to be clear, who is making that motion?
Nick,
You're making that motion,
just
Nick.
putting words in his mouth.
So just say so moved.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Any discussion among the board about that motion? Hearing none, I'm going to ask for a roll call vote. Nick,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Carrie,
Aye.
Jack.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The vote is unanimous. So now we have our next steps, which are that. Why don't you help us with our next steps?
I think that the next step should be to be determined. I need to think about what the next step should be. I should also talk with the applicant, see what they're willing to do. But this public hearing should be continued just in case.
Okay.
I move to continue the public hearing to
Date certain.
date,
Which would be our next meeting, I presume.
May
We have to go to our
20th.
next meeting, don't we?
Do date certain to
Can we,
a meeting at, it doesn't have to be, but I think it's a good idea to do next meeting just in
next
case.
meeting, which would be.
I move to continue the public hearing to the next planning board meeting on May 20th.
May 20th.
Second.
Any discussion about that? None? Roll call vote? We don't need a roll call. Well,
Aye.
maybe we do. Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Vote is unanimous. So we'll continue this public hearing. You guys will hopefully talk with Taylor as far as the next steps forward. Thank you very much for all of your time, all of your work. It's not gone unnoticed. I appreciate it. So thank you. Thank you.
As do, we all do. Thank you.
Do we need to continue we do not need to continue the public hearing for 585, do we? So I would take a motion, do we need to move to close that? Yeah, so I'd like a motion to close the public hearing on 585. Motion to close the public hearing on 585 Main Street.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call vote, Carrie?
Aye.
Jack?
Aye.
Nick?
Aye.
John?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The vote is unanimous. That brings us to our business meeting, which you have the agenda.
One applicant here.
You want to do them first? Okay. Yeah. Is the board okay having, we have a ZBA applicant here. Are they okay moving directly to that?
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's absolutely.
Okay.
Since they're here.
I'm sure they find us fascinating, but
So,
in the interest of bedtime.
not knowing what address you're at, if you'd be willing to come on up, whoever is here. Hemingway, Lawson, Fells Road.
I'm Lawson.
Oh, Lawson, come on up. So we are looking at, let me just pull up.
15 Lawson Road?
15 Lawson, yes.
This is looking for site plan review for a mudroom on the back of the house.
Yes.
And the special permit review is required because of the size of the house. And if you would state your name and address for the committee, and then
Find it.
we will, actually, if you hold on a second, we can pull up.
Sure.
Begins on page 4,005.
I have it on
a hell of a
page
packet.
165, but that was earlier on in the process, so it might be, it's roughly 165.
165 is correct. That's the summary is on
But we've
165.
changed the numbers because as pages got added.
Yeah.
Check if you want more reading. reading these days.
Oh, yeah. And more meetings, too.
Yeah.
Thank you for your patience tonight.
Of course, no, I actually wanted to come and listen, so it's good.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad to hear that.
We'll take all the moral support we can get.
Okay.
Emily's a member of the Historical Commission, that's why we know
excellent,
each other.
Excellent. So if you could state your name and address, and welcome you to give us more detail than what I just said.
Yep. So I'm Emily Dowling. My husband and I moved into 15 Lawson 4 years ago now. And we are finally redoing the 90s kitchen that was left by the previous owner. But everything in it is falling apart. And as far as like kitchen, we really want to add a very small mudroom to the back of the house just to help with flow. And we have 3 kids, school bags, sports bags, just will help organize our lives. So the addition is very small. It's 122 square feet total. We're actually removing a bay window that we don't use at all, and then converting some of that space to be a mudroom. We're also relocating the laundry, which is currently in the kitchen, up to the 2nd floor. So there's a very, very small bump out on the 2nd floor. But it's all in the back of the house. None of it can be seen from the road. It's only to the 90s part of the house that was renovated previously by the owner.
And that patio is already impervious area anyway,
And the patio
right?
is already, yes, the addition is going on already in impervious area. That's a stone patio.
I mean,
And the size of the patio will remain the same after. We're not making any changes to that.
Now I'm just pulling up the packet myself to that page.
yeah, I looked at it, it's very small.
It's very small.
And you really would never know it happened if,
Yeah.
you know?
You weren't so honest. If you trusted your neighbors to not
I don't
call
see it up there.
Yes, that's the point. is
that's the
that
Difficult,
it's
I know, you
it's
have to really
difficult,
look for
yeah.
it. Yeah,
Even
this
if
is
it's
minor.
in front of you on your laptop,
When
you
you
have
see
to.
it, it's, yeah.
I had to study it myself.
Yeah, it's not, it's there, sort of.
Yep.
Yep, looks good.
So,
Yeah,
I'm correct, the only reason we are looking at this for site plan approval is because of the gross floor area of the house as a total, in total. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, you're back there, sorry.
Yes.
it's all the building department, yeah, that's what Tom wrote.
Yeah.
Not a significant additional detriment to the property.
Okay, I think we're ready to vote.
Yeah, I agree. And if somebody make a motion, I would welcome it.
Hold on.
I move that we recommend favorable action as the proposed project does not create negative impacts on the community.
I would second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Good luck with your next steps along the way.
Thank you.
We're probably your easy step.
Only 10 Converse, only wanted
Are
to
you
put a small
here for
kitchen
what?
on.
Fells Road, okay. Come on up, yes, please.
Wanted to see how easy you're doing.
Chicken.
That was a trap, yeah.
We do need to
using the same
gently
architecture,
torment one
oddly enough.
applicant, and I'm
Fells
sorry.
Road.
Excuse me.
Fells Road is on 192, at least it was at one point on 192 of our packet. And then, give us a second and we'll. I'm not sure, I'm not sure it's at that page anymore.
It's 200.
We've added a lot of pages to the packet.
250 something, I think.
203.
203, oh, okay,
That's what I
exaggerated.
see.
Okay, so just to tee off, this is seeking a variance for construction of a new garage, is that correct? And then if you guys introduce yourself, name and address, which we know, and
It's Jim and Kathy Fair, 10 Fells Road.
hold the mic over to you if you don't mind. Thanks.
Jim and Kathy Fair, 10 Fells Road.
Thank you.
And just a little background, this project was approved in the exact design back in 2018. And for a number of reasons, we had put the project on hold. We now went to restart it, and that's where we're back again. But the design itself has not changed in any way. And that was approved, and I'm new to this, so I apologize that I'm looking at some notes from our architect who wasn't able to be here.
Absolutely.
But he
Don't worry.
reviewed, and he said that it was reviewed, approved, and no changes to the proposed design that was submitted in 2018.
Great, so it just expired, your permit?
It expired, correct, and the current garage is non-conforming, and it's touching basically the property line, and in the process of moving it away from the property line and attaching it to the house, that's what's caused the variance request. It was a special permit approved, but the neighbors, it's further away from the neighbors, it's visually better, it's actually, we just found out, the ambulance might be a digression, but somewhat relevant, is the driveway is a little bit unique. It goes up Fells and comes out Highland, so it connects.
Step on a high,
Oh.
high hill, twists
And
and
it's-
turns, and
I know your neighbor's at 12 Fells. Are you to the right or the left?
we are to the left, so the
Okay,
yellow.
gotcha. Yes,
Yeah.
yep.
And,
And so we go out to a back driveway
Huh.
as well, but
but the ambulance went up looking for someone on Highland and got up and wasn't able to turn the corner because of
Oh.
the current design. It's a little bit, different. It's an older format. We've been there since 2015. So moving it back would actually make the driveway, more passable. Hopefully there aren't too many ambulances cutting through, but that's the request as far as the older garage needs to be fixed, demolished. The request is to move it in. This was all approved in 2018, and now we're ready to revisit it. And the location of the garage is better suited to the lot. We just talked about the driveway through, and it's further away from any existing neighbor houses. So we're requesting approval.
Is there any reason why it has to be a variance as opposed to a special permit?
That's,
I think they said the rules changed between 2018 and now, is what we've been told.
Okay, and a variance is harder to get from the ZBA than a special permit, so I just want to make sure that you have everything you need.
Yeah, we're a little nervous about that, too.
and we're working through that, and we talked to some people, and so we do realize some questions.
Just trying to find, I had some notes on it.
It's,
Let's see. Anyway,
we'd welcome feedback because
Generally, a variance requires special circumstances related to soil conditions, shape, or topography of the land that don't generally affect everyone in the district, among your neighbors, that would involve a substantial financial hardship if you weren't to get that variance, which is why it's such a high bar to meet.
I mean, I have no
accessibility
problem
for
with the
emergency
project. It's just that if we give you an okay to go with a variance, but it doesn't meet any of those criteria, then it's not going to go anywhere. So I'm wondering if with your architect, you have a plan B in terms of being able to make modifications that would get it under the threshold of a special permit. And that's something to think about. But, I mean, in the meantime, I think you have the criteria up in front of you.
For a variance, we'd go to Mass General Law. There's nothing actually that I'm aware of in our zoning bylaw about getting a variance. It just references you to Mass General Law 40A, Section 10, which I actually copied and put there just so I wouldn't have to look it up later on. And I mean, there is a term in there that said substantial detriment to the public good. So could be arguments. I mean, these are arguments going to have to be made to the ZBA because they're ultimately the ones who are going to make this decision. Whatever recommendation we make, they will make that decision. But it's really hard to get variances, we found. Really hard.
Right. But I have my notes to say a variance requires soil conditions, shape, or topography that create a financial hardship to have a variance, according to Mass General.
Yeah, that's, I think, almost.
John, what's one that would create a financial hardship? Like, what are these normally allowed for? Do you know?
Ledge,
Oh,
potentially some, sometimes it's very difficult to deal with if you're in a denser neighborhood, some of the denser neighborhoods in Winchester.
The ambulance thing doesn't help? Seems compelling.
You know,
Ambulances
it's
get
a hardship if you're in the ambulance, I mean.
Or if the ambulance has to get to you.
We thought that was relevant because we were trying to figure out and talking to
You know.
a previous lawyer, he'd said that was an issue where the firemen wanted some space from the property line because they might not get in, and we said, well, actually, we're making more space, so we didn't know how relevant, but we didn't think.
Well,
think it would hurt
it's a
to
public
bring up.
safety thing. I can't think of anything, you know, better reasons to
Can
be
I
thinking about
ask a
public
question?
safety.
Is this a variance because the garage is being considered an addition that's being built into the setback?
Yes. It was first supposed to be one non-conforming structure to another non-conforming, but that's what they changed, I believe, from what we understand.
Yes, that,
So that.
yes, yes.
And what we have been told is the Plan B, which so we do have some backups that they've said you can just rebuild on where the spot is. The garage it's somewhat dangerous now, it needs to be taken down. That doesn't seem better for the neighbors nor the driveway, you know, so it is, I think we're hoping to have a discussion to say if, that is our Plan B, by the way, so, and we're again new to all this.
I mean, when I looked at it, and I've been by, yeah, I think this is more conforming than the garage, which,
Yeah.
you know, yeah, it's on the line. It's got a corner on the line, right? That is,
Yeah.
I thought it was more conforming, and there are a whole lot of reasons why having detached garage are really not in anyone's interests. So, you know, I don't, in the current zoning, I don't think it's a special permit to go inside the setback.
No,
Yeah, no, yeah.
it's a variance to go inside the setback.
Right, if you want to get
Whatever
in.
happened to the variance, the gentleman who wanted to build a garage for his Packard?
It didn't
Whatever happened to
happen.
that?
It became a special permit. The decision by the
And
ZBA was
we voted in support of it, but we said we couldn't vote for a special, for the variance?
Well, you,
Yeah, exactly
yeah,
how
you
we
vote
vote.
for you vote for ZBA petitions just like regardless of if it's a site plan review or special permit or variance. It's
Right.
just if you believe that this project does not
What do we do in the case of of that particular project?
just that you said the project as proposed does not create a negative impact on the neighborhood.
Right, we
We
said
didn't
that.
recommend.
We didn't recommend
We
anything.
didn't recommend
Okay.
a
We didn't
variance. We
recommend
simply.
Okay, so we don't have to reject the variance. We can just say that the project does not
Correct.
create a negative impact on the neighborhood.
Can you show the cutaway on that, or, because this is what it's going to look like from the sky, but that doesn't really give a feeling for how might impact the neighbors.
Oh, you want-
Just one note before you
Yes.
take that, if I could.
Oh, sorry.
The upper left part that will be closest to
Yeah.
where, that is it's at the top of a hill of a house that sits down here, so it's not even
Yeah.
a.
You know the
Super
house.
hilly, yeah.
Oh, yeah, no,
Yeah, so it's not, there's no,
Yep.
there, and there never will be.
I'm familiar with
Yeah,
that.
anything
I-
there, so that's
I-
just one
yeah,
point.
I'm with you.
Have you received support from the neighbors at the northern, the lot, wait, the
To the left.
north, to the left, yes. That won't impact us, but that could certainly impact the ZBA.
Yes, we did last time, and we are in the process of getting for this time too, as well. Yeah, it's the same neighbor.
I mean, just looking at the picture, you can see how it kind of,
That is the oddest shaped lot I've ever.
Right? Yeah, that little point.
You got a little frontage there on Hillcrest Parkway.
Yeah, it's really handy in the winter because we can't use our front driveway in the winter.
Yeah.
Oh, so it's paved or?
Luge.
It's all paved,
Oh, it
yes.
is, okay.
But the back is flat out to Hillcrest.
Yeah,
The
yeah.
front is,
I got you.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the shape
Oh, and
is, yeah, because one of the three things is size, soil condition, shape, or topography. That is one of the oddest shaped lots in town.
well, I mean, the shape,
Yeah.
At least in the front half is okay, but the back is odd.
yeah.
yeah, I mean, well, topography and shape certainly affect access from Fells. You know,
Absolutely.
and if you wanted a garage, you want a driveway to get to a garage, to get out of your car, Hillcrest is the way to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I looked at the driveway, yeah, it's, it's pretty to look at. But
We're wondering how
Can't
that
park in
got
the garage
approved for that slice and dice at some point, but again, we bought this a few years ago. Just some other notes from our architect, Scott Grady, who was actually oddly enough involved in the Lawson project, so. But he's away, but he did note his notes, what I said, hadn't done this before, so appreciate the patience. But he said the demolition of existing garage, moving it away from current location benefits neighbors. New location causes no negative impact to other neighbors. Location of the new garage is better suited to a lot with an irregular configuration. And the design of the proposed structure complements traditional details of existing homes. So there's some points he just thought might be relevant.
Can we just make a
I
motion?
welcome a motion.
That,
Yeah. We
Want
could
the
spend all
language
night
again?
trying to figure out
Any
what
help
the
with the
ZBA will
language?
do, but
Here.
we'll never get there.
Here,
We recommend favorable action of the proposed, am I making the motion?
But you're making the motion?
Okay, I will recommend favorable action as the proposed project does not create negative impacts on the community. To 10
Additional,
cells.
to
Yeah.
increase negative? I just
Additionally,
want-
it increases access for the
Or should we
emergency
just say that
services.
it does not create a negative impact on the neighborhood? Like, we're not opining on whether the variance is
Yeah,
one
that's
one
not
way
our
or the
problem.
other.
Doesn't,
Oh.
when the
It's an
property or the
increased
community.
negative impact, because there's already a negative impact from the garage being too close to the property line that exists. Well, I mean, ostensibly there is, yeah.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it reduces, if anything, kind of.
Yeah, that's
You'd be on the
unusual.
side of reducing
Yeah,
it.
yeah, exactly.
You know?
unusual to be able to say that, right?
Yeah. So I ruined your motion, but if
It's
you
just
could,
trashed. I mean, it's shredded on the floor. I will not be making any more motions.
yeah, here, I shouldn't be making motions anyway. I withdraw any statement.
I will second the motion. As I understood it.
Okay.
That motion was,
It's
for the
whatever you
sake
make
of,
of it.
since Jack, you're going to be writing this up.
I am.
What do you believe the motion to have just been, so that we can confirm that before we vote?
That we recommend favorable action as the proposed project, in fact, improves the impact on the community.
That was a good motion you did.
I would second that.
All right, so I'm reversing the order.
So Jack is making the
Tag
motion,
team.
Carrie is seconding. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Chair votes aye. Thank you very much.
Thank
and
you.
Good,
Thank you
good,
very
good
much.
luck.
Good luck
Thank
with the ZBA. We'll all be watching. Be curious.
Thank you very much.
For the sake of simply doing all three ZBA petitions, do we want to just do the third one right now? Or
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So the third ZBA petition is 21 Hemingway Street. And I had it at page 133, but you must have some new page number now. Where's the page number?
It's right here.
143.
It's another very small.
It's this one here.
It is for a special permit to add a front entranceway to
It's a
the,
covered front entrance, isn't it?
Yes.
yes, it's
Right now,
enclosed.
It's just a bare door.
It's going to be an enclosed,
It's a very, yes, it's covered.
But it's a special permit because they're infringing on the setback.
so
Yep.
I was struggling with why this is a special permit and not a variance. Because 3.5.4 would suggest that this increases the
Nonconformity.
nonconformity, which would suggest from 3.5.4 that would be a variance. This is not for us to decide, but I'm confused why.
So it's already a nonconformity. The existing is 15.9, where 20 is required. So it's already nonconforming, and an extension of a nonconforming is a special permit. You can't, whereas a variance, if you have a conforming structure and build into the setback, that's a variance.
Okay, so 3.5.4 says the construction, extension, or structural change of a non-conforming structure in such a manner as to increase the existing non-conformity or create a new non-conformity shall require the grant of a variance, provided, however, that the extension of an exterior wall at or along the same non-conforming distance within a required yard shall require the grant of a special permit from the Board of Appeals. So I was trying to struggle with why this is a non-conforming structure and it's increasing the existing non-conformity. It's not for us necessarily to opine, but I was confused by why this was not a variance request.
Could we see, they enclosed a bunch of pictures of neighboring houses. Could you show those?
Oh, I have no problem with this, by the way.
No, I understand, but I just want to make a point. When I see these photographs, as I was looking at this before. Sorry, yeah, there they are. No, that's not it, that's not it. Here they are, yeah, okay. Now look, this is the immediate neighborhood. If you look, that one there, in fact, all of them are all probably within the setback.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But that's the style of that neighborhood. Those houses were all built in probably the 20s, 30s, although the house in question was built in the 90s. But still, I don't see, if it's non-conforming, I don't see that it's non-conforming for the neighborhood. It's not like all the other houses are set way back. They're all right up to the street. So I have no problem with this. It's a roundabout way of saying what you just said.
The only thing that I sort of thought about is the fact that the neighborhood sort of front rooms or whatever you want to call the little pop-outs are very open.
Yeah.
And this one is completely enclosed, and they have the side windows, but I think whatever they can do to maximize the transparency of that entryway is beneficial.
Good point.
I mean, I don't know if there are, glass things they can put next to the door, or if there's any way to maximize the transparency of the walkway. Not whatever you call the little entryway thing. That's my only thought. Other than that,
So,
looks great.
Brian, it looks like, am I understanding, it looks like they already have an existing front porch here.
They do, but it's just a step, concrete steps.
Right,
They
but that
Does that
currently.
count as already in the,
Yeah.
yeah, so we're not
So it's-
really.
So, but if you go back to the page that you had, it showed the change of distance being from 15 feet.
Because of the covering. So the covering changes, the covering's making it a structure. So I'm only brainstorming with you here.
I think that-
The covering makes it a structure, so the porch itself was the nonconformity.
Winchester, I believe, has an allowance for
Stairs.
porches
Yeah,
not covered. I think it's like, was it 4 feet into the setback?
It's something, yeah.
4 by 5. What you have now is conditioned space. That's a room.
so
You know,
that
that's-
could be why
Just
the
explain
building
our
commissioner
porch.
determined it. I don't know, it just.
mean-
I dropped him a note.
I know-
And
I
he for the
can't just
day, and he
cover it,
said
is what
he'd
you're
get back to me, but I said, it'll be too late. I have no problem with this. And either way, we don't opine on whether, just like we didn't moments ago, whether it was a variance or not.
Yeah, we want to make our recommendation correct, though, so you're smart to think it through, but it sounds like
Yeah.
the footprint is already non-conforming, and now the structure will also be non-conforming, and no one has a problem with it. So I would make a move that we recommend favorable action on however we choose to define this project, because it does not create negative impacts on the community. And
Is there a second on that?
A second.
Any discussion on that motion?
do we want to make a comment in our you're capturing it. I don't worry about that.
You can capture our
We've
discussion.
gone excellent clerk to excellent clerk.
I'll lean on Cheryl, though.
All in
She's
favor?
been the glue.
Aye.
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 Chair votes aye. Vote is unanimous. Thank you. Oh, I just closed the whole packet. Why would I do that? I just closed everything.
So now,
It's your,
So that brings us back to the business portion of our agenda.
what did I do with the agenda? Oh, here it is.
I had some notes, but now I need to find where my notes were.
Board and staff updates.
Yeah. Okay, why don't we, you go ahead. We'll do have some updates.
Approve the minutes.
Yeah, well, let's just start with, I wanted to
Oh, right.
give an update that we got the final draft of the economic feasibility analysis for the MOD.
3A.
MBT 3A, MOD, I was trying to come up with it. And we actually discussed with them, and I said, can you add a sentence that says this actually supports exactly what we want? And they added a sentence that said, they have their whole analysis, and they then at the end said, this supports what they were asking for, so that we have that.
Beautiful.
So the task before us now, which is probably not, at this point in time, a board issue, but more of a Taylor and myself, which will be to submit that to the state, and along with our existing bylaw, and get approval from the OHLC. And then that would be coming back to us once they say, yeah, it's okay, to submit a bylaw change at fall town meeting. It's one number changes from 10 to 6, and another place we say round up as opposed to rounding down. And otherwise, it would be a very small change. But the suggestion is that we go to the OHLC first and get their approval before we start this. So I will keep you guys all informed. If you want more information on this, if you're happy to let us just run with it, letting us run with scissors, let us do it, and we'll be careful.
Go get it. You're already admirably prepped for fall town meeting.
So that will be for fall town meeting. Any other board updates from any members of the board?
No.
Seeing none. If Taylor comes back and he has staff updates, we'll let him give us, but that would move us on to approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes that were April 15th and April 28th. I know there have been some edits along the way, and then they were sent out. Have people had a chance to read those minutes?
Can we lump them into one motion?
Absolutely. If you make the motion that lumps them together, we will accept that.
I will move that we approve the minutes of both April 15th, 2025 and April 28th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The vote on the minutes is unanimous. We'll go back to staff updates. Do you have any staff updates that you want to share with the committee? We did the one board update, which was update on where the EFA stood and what our task will be moving forward, which will be not really dealing with the board until we come back and get ready to do a bylaw change at some point on. So I gave that update.
The only update that I have, and then the only update I have is that the Economic Development Strategic Plan, we expect that draft version of that to be delivered hopefully this week or next week, but at least in time for the next planning board meeting. It doesn't have to be a big topic for us, but I think everyone's interested in seeing what the outcome of that is.
That's great.
So hopefully we'll have that prepped for next meeting. Ian, I don't mean to put you on the spot. I don't know if there are any updates for you from any of the other things that we have been doing, particularly age-friendly. If we don't have any updates, it's okay.
Only update is that the survey is live.
And can you explain what age-friendly is?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Age-friendly Winchester is just sort of an initiative from the planning department, hopefully with collaboration of the planning board, as well as the Jenks Center, to work with the community to define what we think would make Winchester more age-friendly for not just those of advanced age, but of all ages.
Have a mic.
Not just those, but of all ages, for a place to age in place properly. And so what that entails is the Jenks Center, along with the planning department, has created a survey for all Winchester residents and those who work in Winchester to cornerstone what we would define as an age-friendly community. And from that point, the planning department, along with the Jenks Center, would create an age-friendly action plan that would be implemented over the rest of the year, created after the survey ends in June. So people have until June to make their thoughts clear on that. The survey should be going on the town manager newsletter, as well as the Jenks newsletters and other various. There's also there was a handout at town meeting, the last session. There should be available at the next one as well, if anyone wants to take the survey. But That's mostly what a short summary of what that is. And if anyone has more questions, they can direct it to Planning Department.
Great.
Thank you very much. You know, it was a lot of work, because I've been in some of these
Massive
meetings.
expansion pickleball courts, I think.
Yeah, there's a lot of open comments, so you can include any suggestion you want.
Pickleball is dangerous. I know more people
I
who've
don't disagree with
broken
you.
bones on the pickleball court.
I'm not going to even go there. Pickleball is dangerous. I think we just might as well just bubble wrap ourselves and be done.
I'll explain it later.
So is that all for any staff updates? So I want to move next to the State of the Town Advisory Committee. I spoke with Paris on the Select Board, who's going to be, it sounds like, leading the State of the Town Advisory Committee. This will be we put something in the packet, which was a memo that they prepared. I'm sure you all read it cover to cover, the whole memo. So they are asking for a volunteer. They were unclear whether they wanted, they actually said they didn't care whether I appointed someone from the board, we collectively put someone forward, or we voted someone forward. It's not a standing committee, so I don't think we need to vote it, but we need to get someone from our board who's willing to do it. And I don't know if anybody here is willing to do it.
I'm willing. Brian and I discussed this a bit offline, but I'm happy to step in if no one else is passionate about taking it on.
Thank you. I would not do it.
Jack back seriously.
You stand still.
Well, I have sort of like the lightest plate, I think, now. I've gone from pretty busy to little capacity.
And you spent a long time working on the master plan a while back.
Yeah, it's a good
which
follow-up.
is a good follow-up
That's
for
relevant,
this.
sure.
So I appreciate your willingness to do this, and it should be wrapping up. I mean, I guess the output of this is going to be recommendations on what direction the town should take. Should the town be supporting an override, how much that will be, and that's going to be handed off to the select board, who then will make those sort of decisions. And then, as we all heard at town meeting, if you were all there watching, they'll also be setting up the facts committee, which will be all volunteer, not members of boards, working in parallel. So the select board will have feedback from both this body, that body, and the facts committee. So thank you for stepping up. I will. I'll reach out to Paris and let or you can, and say you drew the long straw. Town meeting up.
Do we need to vote, or is it?
I don't believe we do. If anybody wants to make a motion, so to make it clean, we could, but this is not a standing body. This is, it's been described as a working group of the select board, so I don't think we need to do that, which also gives us the security that if something happens and you say, I can't, whatever,
Right.
Someone else we'll send someone else that day.
Yeah.
Right.
Or that
That's
month.
fine. That makes sense.
Sounds good.
We have, town meeting has gone well so far. Our budget was approved as amended by the town manager. So we have our full budget minus the $15,000 that we had requested for a co-op student. I think that's a good outcome from this town meeting. You would agree, Jack, that getting that.
It was a real easy
it was,
yellow sheet this time around.
Yes. So we, just a quick update on some things. We had voted on, before the first night of town meeting, on two articles. Article 38, we voted unfavorable action. And Article 39, we voted favorable action. The second night of town meeting, we met. We had a smaller quorum, but we did have a quorum. We voted to change both of those votes to no opinion and no opinion on either of those articles. So we currently have no outstanding articles that we have opinions on.
No.
There is one question I want to ask the board, is that there's Article 31, we will no doubt be asked our opinion on. Article 31 relates to the select board, giving the select board authorization to remediate lands or to I don't want to mess up their article, what they're asking for.
It's designating an amount of land that would be used for mitigation of the non-degraded, of the non-degraded portions of the 10 Converse Place parcel.
Thank you. So we have currently not voted on that. We could choose to vote on it. We could give no opinion. We will certainly be asked our opinion. And if asked, I'm happy to go up and recount where we stand in a very dry and analytical way. I'm really good at being dry, if you haven't noticed. But we have to, unless we vote of an opinion on Article 31, we will not be conveying an opinion on that. And I just wanted to open that up because I want you guys to have the opportunity to decide if you want an opinion on 31.
And as much as this has been such a topic, this Converse Place has been such a topic, I think it would behoove us to have an opinion on this, don't you?
I definitely do. I have a strong opinion if you would like it. I think it should be postponed because we don't have a final plan for the project. And I think approving an area of mitigation, one, completely bypasses Concom's opportunity to weigh in on it. Even if they take comments, they should have a constructive discussion first, but I'm going to put that aside for a second. Second, it assumes that we have a final plan and it designates the area that needs to be mitigated before we've decided the area that needs to be mitigated. So it's out of step. And it requires further study if that's how they're now putting things off, so it doesn't constitute negative action. And I would strongly encourage you to reach out to Michelle and suggest that they just do that.
So are you suggesting a motion or are you suggesting?
If it comes to the floor and we are asked our opinion, I move that we recommend unfavorable action on designating land for mitigation for the 10 Converse Place parcel.
Is there a second on that motion?
I'd second that.
Who seconded it?
John.
It's unison there.
Wonder Twin powers.
I just want to make sure, so we can either do it before or after we vote. I want to be crystal clear on what I'm authorized to, because if we vote unfavorable action, and it goes to before, I'm going to be asked, I'm going to go up and I'm going to have to represent why we voted unfavorable action. I don't have to, I could just simply say we voted unfavorable action and move on. Like, that's.
All right, get through what you understand about it and we'll work with you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Yep.
Say it now.
Pardon?
Say now what you would say if you were up there.
Well, I would give a preview of where we stand as far as what we have done as far as actions, and then I would say we have not voted yet, just to be clear. But
Okay, let's assume we vote.
I would say the planning board voted unfavorable action because we believe it's premature to be designating areas for potential remediation until an actual design has been approved by the planning board.
Bazinga, perfect.
So
A little dry, but perfect.
I master dry. That's my. You saw my presentation.
I'm only teasing.
No, I try to be dry. The more boring I am, the less someone can actually get upset at anything I say. So we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. The vote is unanimous. Town meeting should end on Thursday night, last issue of town meeting. I don't see any reason we need to meet on Thursday night. So I'm going to suggest, unless anybody wants, that we just cancel that meeting. Okay.
Great.
Okay. And that's all I have as far as town meeting, unless you have anybody else has any other updates about town meeting?
How's the littlest assistant to the town planner doing?
Good.
That's additional business. That's where we get right now.
Sleeping any better?
I mean, she's only waking us up twice a night. It's not
That's
that bad.
progress.
Twice a night isn't bad at all.
It's not bad.
She started moving,
Oh, spicy
like
days.
inches at a time.
Yep.
But she's moving.
Locomotion?
Like trying to crawl, but
Oh, good.
like moving her shoulders. She hasn't
army
figured
crawl.
out the arms are an essential part of the.
Really early. How old is she?
Watching this progress. is-
Yeah, gymnastics, my friend. I'm telling you.
It's a mixed blessing, that moving.
As soon as they're potty trained, you can put them in all the stuff.
Any additional business? Nope. Our next meeting is May 20th. That will be a remote meeting. If we keep our pattern of going every other one, I assume people are okay with that. So let's stick with that And then when the summertime rolls around, I think we should have a serious conversation. If people are traveling, then we need to have some meetings more remote because multiple people are traveling at the same time. We can talk about that for an individual meeting, but for now, this seems to work. I would, unless there's anything more, welcome a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. And thank you, WinCam. Good night, everyone.